Okay.
So you can start recording now is fine. And so um, you started? We're
Yes.
on? Well, hang
Yep.
on. So can you, let's restart it. But before we do that, let me just ask you a question or two.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Um, so,
All right. Good to go.
cool. Thank you. Hello, guys and gals, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for listening. And I have a great program for you guys today. I'd like to thank Bay Ridge Senior Center and the Tech Fair coming to you virtually, which is a new, innovative way to get things done in these trying and crazy times. Anyway, a little bit about me. My name is David Newman. I am a board certified orthopedic surgeon specializing in sports medicine, shoulder, knee, and ankle surgery for about 15 years. And I realized part of the recovery and part of the outcomes, and in order to make people really feel better and function better, rehabilitation and doing exercise to get better, get rid of the pain, increase your strength is really important. So I developed this technology, this online software technology, and it works so well in the senior population and for those that care for seniors, because having joint pain can bring seniors down, can make them frustrated, of course, takes away some of their independence and might take away some of their happiness. So the company is called PopDoc, and we are making the move to better joint health. And the way I usually start my presentations is through some gentle exercises. And so we believe that exercise and joint health activities are really important to help you as an elder, or if you're a loved one who has an elder that they care for, then these exercises can be really beneficial. They're all done seated, so they're very safe and they're very effective. And the goal is for you to create a small routine in your life so you can do something every day to help your joints function better and have less pain. So I'm going to start off with a bunch of easy exercises, then we'll go into a little educational component about what a joint is and why, uh, how they function and why they function. So the first one is called active shoulder motion. This is called shoulder flexion. And as you watch this, it's great to take a seat and just work your way through it, easily following the video. So this can be done with both hands at once, or you can do them one at a time. And essentially following the model in the images, you start with your hands at your side and you gently just reach your hands in front of you and up to the ceiling as high as you can. Once you get up there, you slowly bring them back down. And this is called an active shoulder flexion motion. You can repeat this slowly and in a controlled fashion up to 5 or 10 times just to get your joints moving. Breathing during these types of exercises is important. So I am a huge advocate of breathing in through your nose so you can moisten up the air and you can get rid of some of the particles in the air. And you exhale through both your nose and your mouth. Nice, slow, and steady breaths. So after you're done with this one, we'll deal with the next one, and this is called scapular upward rotation. So essentially following the model, you start with both hands out to the side, and you gently just bring them up above you. Once you get up to the top, you come on back down, and you can repeat this 4 or 5 times. So you can work on this motion in your shoulders. Then we'll work our way towards the neck a little bit. So the neck moves in very many directions, and it's not uncommon for one's neck to become a little more stiff as you age. And these exercises should bring about some gentle stretching or pulling. They should not be sharp pains. And if you have any reluctance to do this for fear of sharp pains, then you shouldn't do the exercise. And the goal is for this is so you can still look around easily. The first one is neck flexion and extension. So you can basically just looking straight ahead, bring your chin down to your chest. And then you go through a full arc of motion, so therefore you're looking up at the ceiling as much as you can. So that's one range of arc of motion. And you can hold it at the end and then slowly bring it down to the chin to chest again. So this can be done 4 or 5 times. And part of why we do this is because the muscles and the tissues around the joints, they are happier when they are moving. And if they don't move, they become stiff and weak and can give you pain. So the other active neck motion we like to work on is lateral rotation, is just moving your neck to one side, like you're looking over one shoulder, and you gently move back to the other side. So that's one revolution. And you can do it again for 3 or 4 times to really kind of wake up those muscles and those soft tissues around your neck. And what this also does is it helps feed the joints in your neck. So the motion kind of stimulates the cells that line your joints to create and to make the synovial fluid that allows to, it's like motor oil, that allows your joints to move without clicking, cracking, and creaking. Lateral bending is another neck motion we'll work on today, and that's essentially looking at the model. You're bringing one ear to your shoulder, and then you gently come back to bring the other ear to the other shoulder. So that's a revolution. You can do it 3 or 4 or 5 times. And this is sometimes uncomfortable because the muscles at the sides of your neck don't always like to move the way that we make them through lateral bending. However, if you do this, you will wake up that muscle and you will keep it happy and you will keep it mobile. So we'll then go back to the shoulder a little bit, and this can be done with both hands or just one. And as you see, the arm is straight and at the side. And this is called internal and external rotation. So essentially you're bringing your thumb in towards you and trying to twist it behind you as far as you can, and then you're doing it the other way, so your thumbs are pointing out to the side. So what this is doing is it's actually moving your wrist, your elbow, and your shoulder all at the same time. So these are gentle, controlled motions that kind of wake up these joints, feed these joints, and bring blood flow to the joints. So the blood flow that go to your joints, it might make you start breathing, or your heart rate might go up a little bit, and that's not uncommon, and it's actually a good sign, because this is the blood flows in a circulatory system. So the blood flow that you bring to your joints is also increasing the blood flow to your brain, so that helps keep you cognitively functioning well. The next one we're going to do is passive shoulder motion. It's called horizontal adduction. So with one hand facing straight ahead and your arm out straight and parallel to the floor, the other hand is gently pulling your arm across your body, and that's stretching out the muscles in the back of your upper back. And once again, that also helps some of the muscles in the back of your shoulder. So once you hold it there for 10 or 15 seconds, you can slowly relax that and then do it with the other side. So we're going to move down to the wrist now and do some active wrist motion. This is called circumduction. So the wrist is just held, you can do both at once if you want to. It's just held out in front of you. And as you can see from the model, if your arm is resting on the chair, then your wrist is the focus of the exercise. And you just make large circles with moving only your wrist. So try not to move your elbows either. And you do it in a clockwise direction, 4 or 5 revolutions. And then you kind of go the other way. And you do it counterclockwise. Once again, the goal is to stimulate your joints of your wrist so that there's some new blood flow there, and that the joints themselves can increase their fluid so they don't click, crack, and creak as much as they may have. So we're now going to stretch out a couple of the muscles of the forearm. So with one hand, you're putting it straight ahead with your palm up. The other one, you're grabbing either your palm or your fingers, and you're gently bending them backwards, as you can see in the model. And this is stretching out the muscles in your forearm. And those forearm muscles, once you stretch these muscles out, what it does is it wrings out the muscle. And you take all the stale and older blood and you get it out, and it allows new blood to get in there. The new blood and the blood itself is what feeds the muscles to keep them healthy and alive. So by doing this, you're actually waking up the muscles and keeping them healthy. So then you can do that with the other side. And 5, 10, 15 seconds, you feel a gentle stretch in there. And then we can flip the palm over so it's facing down and work on the muscles on the back of your arm, doing the same thing. So by bending your wrist with your other hand, it is a passive stretch of all these muscles that extend your wrist, at least on the extensor stretch. And once you're done with one side, then you can move on over to the other side. And you can do this for 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 15 seconds, and you can even come back to it later in the day and do it again. I encourage most people to do this before they are using their hands for repetitive things, whether it's playing golf, whether it's doing dishes, whether it's mopping or sweeping and doing activities around the house. So another one is to work on your triceps muscle, and those are the muscles behind the top of your arm. So just following the model here, you lift one arm up, you use the other one to grab the elbow, and you gently stretch the side of your body and the back of your arm, and that stretches out all those muscles. I really like this one because when you move your body to one side, it actually stretches out your rib cage a little bit to keep them healthy, to allow you to, because the ribs are what protect your lungs, and also they help you with your breathing. So once you're done with this, with 10 or 15 seconds, you can go on to the other side. And same kind of thing, you follow by bringing one hand to the back of your neck and the other one to your elbow. And you can slowly stretch your arm, shoulder, and the lateral or outside aspect of your rib cage. Really great stretch. It's something you can potentially do every single day to really wake up and keep those joints functioning well. So at PopDoc, we are making the move to better joint health, and that includes educating people about their joints or about their whole musculoskeletal system. It's a big word. It's a medical word. A lot of medical words are big and scary, but the musculoskeletal system means that there's more than one part to the grouping of things. So why care about this system? Well, the system is important because it provides form, support, stability, and movement to the body. And the musculoskeletal system is pretty big. There's 206 bones, 360 joints, which are the coming together of two or more bones to create movement. There's 126 extremity joints, and the extremity joints run from your shoulder to your fingertips or from your hip to the tips of your toes. There's 33 individual vertebrae. Those are the special odd-shaped bones of your spine, running from the base of your neck to your tailbone. And there are about 640 muscles that move your joints around in space. So what I'd like to do is just quickly go through a joint so you can have a deeper understanding of what's inside. So this is the left shoulder socket with the arm bone removed. So the arm bone, which is called the humerus, has been taken out, and what you do is you see the socket in front of you. So the joints are made up of a covering of the bone called articular cartilage. This is a spongy, delicate, and fragile tissue that is made up of these cells that spit out this spongy material. And it has no nerve supply and no blood supply. So when it gets damaged or injured, it doesn't always heal. In order to feed the cells of the articular cartilage, the joint has to move. It moves, and the two bones of the joint are moved around, and they squeeze each other, and that brings nutrients into the articular cartilage to help keep it alive. Tendons are the rope-like structures that connect a muscle to the bone. So the muscles, like the meaty structure, connects to the bone with a tendon. So these tendons are little ropes, and so sometimes if they get overstretched or torn, they become painful. Ligaments are also ropes, but these are ropes that hold one bone to the other. So when the joint is sitting there and you're sleeping or resting or just letting your arm dangle, then the ligaments are what holds you together. They're called your static stabilizers. So when you're not moving and you're static, supports you. The tendons are more of a dynamic stabilizer. So when your arm is moving, your joint is more stable because the muscles pull and push the joint bones together so they're more stable. Joints are also made up of bones, and those are the calcium-rich, rigid structures that give us our support and our structure of our skeleton. So, of course, the bones are those rigid things, and they are part of the joint. And at the end of each bone within the joint itself is the articular cartilage. So structural cartilage is like I liken it to a washer. It's like a rubbery structure, not made up of calcium, but a fibrous tissue that helps deepen the socket, at least in the shoulder. And you can see it there with that beige color. And that's called the labrum in the shoulder. And there's also a labrum in the hip. In the knee, it's called the meniscus. So this structural cartilage is very important. It has a lot of nerves in it. It also deepens the joint to give it more stability. And it also is a shock absorber. So when you walk, let's say in your knee, the meniscus, the shock absorber is your cushion that prevents the bones from getting damaged or the joint from getting damaged. So the structural cartilage, if it does tear or get old and start to break down, some of the nerves get exposed and that can lead to pain. The muscles are the deeper red colors in this model and sketch. And that's the meaty structure that you know of. It's red because of all the hemoglobin in it. And that is a compound in cells. And the muscles are the ones that allow you to, let's say, bend your fingers around a glass. And those are the muscles that let you hold that glass. And so they're attached to the bone with the tendon, but these muscles, when you stretch them out, you help wring out these muscles. And so they refill with new healthy blood and they get all the byproducts of the muscle cells out, which would be the carbon dioxide and the lactic acid. So if any of you guys work out and have sore muscles, that's because you have carbon dioxide and lactic acid buildup in the muscles. And that's why it's good to stretch before and after you work out. The joints are also made up of a capsule and a lining. So the capsule is this sac that holds the bones together, and it's like a fibrous baggie, essentially, and it keeps the fluid in. The fluid is made by the cells in the lining. It's called synovial fluid, and therefore the cells that make the synovial fluid are called synoviocytes. So they get stimulated by motion. So when you move the joint around, you're stimulating those cells to make the motor oil fluid to help for frictionless motion of the bones across your joints. Really important, because if you don't use your joints, they're going to become stiff and creaky, and you're not going to have enough fluid in there. So what also is in the lining are the nerves, the blood vessels, and the lymphatics. So the nerves are they're small electrical wires running from the lining all the way up into your brain, and then there's other nerves that run from your brain down into the lining or into your muscles. And that's what coordinates our joints. That's what gives us muscular coordination, our balance, our knowledge of where our hand is in space in relation to us. And the blood vessels, as we discussed a little bit, that's a circulatory system, which means the blood vessels or the blood flow through the vessels flows all the way from your brain all the way to your tips of your toes. So it keeps on, and of course it's the heart that pumps everything around. So these blood vessels bring in new nutrients and food for the cells, and it also takes away some of the byproducts and waste that the cells make. And the lymphatics are a non-blood vessel channel of fluid to help regulate how much fluid is in your body, or and its channels to get rid of excess fluid. In the shoulder, there's some unique sacs of tissue called bursa, And these are little, if you see them up there, the little purple bags or structures that allow the joint or the bones to roll over one another without jamming into each other. And sometimes when the bursa becomes bruised or damaged or some trauma to it, it gets painful and inflamed, and that's called bursitis. And in the shoulder, that's very common to have what's called bursitis. And the hip, you also have some bursitis sometimes as well. So how do these joints function? So now we kind of know a little bit more about these joints. Well, lubrication permits easy motion across the bones. And so, as we discussed, the blue is the lining, and that's where those synovial sites live, and they spit out motor oil. That's what their job is, and that is the lubrication to keep the joints moving. It diminishes the friction. It's like a motor oil. And the brain sends and receives impulses through nerves. So when we want to grab that glass or grab your comb or brush, we tell our brain to contract our muscles of our hands around that brush, and it allows us to therefore do things with it. The same way that if you were to put your finger on a hot stove, you pull it away. That's because the nerves in your finger go to your brain and say, hey, get your hand off your stove because it's hot. So the brain sends and receives impulses through the nerves. And then when the nerves are stretched out or torn from injury or aging in the joint, that's when you start to feel pain. And pain can be sharp and stabbing, dull, aching, throbbing. There can be many types of impulses of pain. So after the brain sends and receives impulses, the muscles react, and then purposeful motion ensues. Like going back to that example of grabbing a glass or grabbing your comb or brush. So what do the joints do for us? Well, they allow movement, of course. And they also allow us to perform daily activities, whether we're getting out of a bed or out of a chair, or putting on your shirt, combing your hair, putting on your shoes. These activities are easily accomplished when your joints are functioning well, when they're not stiff, when they don't have pain, when they're strong enough. Also to perform recreational activities. Some of you like to play cards or like to garden or dance, and these are done through the usage of our joints. Working and playing is also, of course, something that joints help us do, whether you still work or if you used to work, you used to have to use your joints, whether it was working in a warehouse, working at a desk, or anything such as writing, or most anything you do involves the joints. And then playing, of course, which would be playing any kind of sport or a recreational activity that you like. So when a part of your musculoskeletal system is injured as a result of an accident or an illness or just normal aging or congenital, which means from birth problem, it can cause pain and affect other parts of your body. You all probably can understand that if you have ever sprained your ankle or banged your knee and it wasn't working well. And sometimes other parts of your leg might start to have to work harder and can also be overused and cause fatigue. In addition, if you can't walk very well, then your back can sometimes act up. So the goal really is to keep your joints functioning very well. And a lot of Americans have musculoskeletal problems, and as we age, our ability to heal and repair joint damage diminishes. So that old fall from the curb when you were 18 or 20 might have said, that hurt for like 20 minutes or so. But as we age, that fall from the curb can make you be in pain for 4 to 6 weeks. And that can certainly alter the way you walk and alter the way you feel and how happy you are. So really, it's about 1 out of 2 people at 18 and about 3 out of 4 people at 65 or older who have some sort of musculoskeletal disease. And that's a lot of people around the country and world. So in order to keep your system healthy, it's highly recommended that you should appropriately use your joints. And some of the exercises we did, I like to call them joint health activities because they're not really, not exercises like you have to do jumping jacks or get on the floor and all that stuff. It's just joint health activities is one way to appropriately use your joints to keep them healthy. And the goal is to keep you as pain-free and independent as possible. Because when you're pain-free and independent, you are going to be happier. Let you be social, let you be able to think about things that make you happy. So we believe at PopDoc that there are qualities of joint function that we want to increase, meaning we meet people where they are in their musculoskeletal health journey through life, and then we enhance or increase that quality of function. So mobility is one of those things, qualities. That's achieving and maintaining the ability for your joints to easily change position in space. So exhibiting a full and complete range of motion. So when your joints can easily move, that means you're mobile, and that means you can reach the back of your head when you're combing it or washing it. You can bend down and pick something up off the floor, or you can tie and put on your shoes without a problem. So another joint quality is tone. And tone is when you do something to work the muscle to make it firmer. A firmer muscle will protect the joint from the everyday use. So some of the exercises and joint health activities can firm up your muscles. And the goal is to protect the joint, because the joint is the most delicate and fragile part of your musculoskeletal system. Flexibility is another quality of joint function, and that's performing a motion activity that lengthens the muscle. And as we spoke about that, through stretching, you gain flexibility. Through stretching, you lengthen the muscle and you get rid of the old fluids and you bring in the new fluids. And this ultimately increases its pliability, or its ability to stretch. And that will increase its resistance to traumatic failure. Because once the muscle fails, that means that tissues tear and it leads to what's called inflammation. That's the black and blue that you get, the redness you get, the warmth you get, and the pain you get if you do have a trauma to your musculoskeletal system. So conditioning your joints and muscles is another way to protect your joints. And that's working the muscle to endure daily repetitive tasks without failure or fatigue. So that minimizes the risk of damaging your joints. I think about conditions such as if you have one plate to wash and put away, you can probably do it. If you have 10 plates to wash and put away, you might start getting tired and your joints might start just getting sore. And that's because there's not enough condition in the muscles. Strength is the last one, and that's increasing the quality of the muscle fibers to make them stronger and more powerful, so they can create more force. So strength allows you to still carry that gallon of milk and be able to put it away shoulder level or above in your refrigerator. That means you got strong muscles still. So some of these exercises and joint health activities we use at PopDoc can help you maintain and preserve the strength that you want. So we offer these joint preservation activity programs. And that means that they are programs to preserve your joints to allow them to keep functioning well. And this can be any joint in the body: neck, low back, shoulder, hip, elbow, knee, wrist, ankle. Whatever joint you feel you want to work on, you can. And this is all accessed through the web. So those of you who are stuck at home or don't feel like going out or can't get to the senior center or your activity center, as long as you're comfortable using the internet, you can do these exercises in the comfort of your own home, comfort of your own chair in your own home, to really preserve your function. So they are safe and they are easy to do. So safe means we don't have you get up and down from a chair or the ground. We don't have you do like strenuous and dangerous things. And they're easy, meaning they're just activities that we've done already. What I'd like to do as we finish up the program is really do a couple more exercises to show you that we do have joint activities for every joint, essentially every joint in the body. So this is active low back motions called seated lateral rotation. So on your chair or seat, you're gently just moving from your low back by twisting your shoulders to one side. And this is an active motion. So once you get there, you can gently come back to the starting position and go to the other side. That's a full range of motion. You can do this 4 or 5 times in a slow, controlled fashion to wake up those muscles in your low back and even the joints or the ligaments, and help them stay healthy and get some new nutrients to them. So this one works a little bit on the hip as well as the lower back. It's called a latissimus dorsi stretch, and Once again, the words are big and long, but I wouldn't be concerned. Those are the names of the muscles that run down the sides of your body. This one, she's starting position, and she's just bringing one arm up and slowly leaning over. So that's stretching out your lower back and the outside aspect of your hip, as also your works on your shoulder and your arm a little bit. So once you get there and you hold it there as a flexibility for 10 or 15 seconds, you slowly bring it back, and then you can do the other one. So I'm a huge advocate of this one because it really stretches out a lot of your body at once, and you can do this all from a seated position. So we're going to move down to the hips now, and the hips sometimes do become stiff as you age because they are so deep in your body, and unless you do specific things to keep them mobile, they have a tendency to stiffen. So if you're able to, you bring, this is a seated piriformis stretch, and once again, the piriformis is a long, weird name, and that's a muscle that lives deep in your hip area. And for hip flexibility, it's a seated piriformis stretch where you're bringing one foot over your opposite thigh, as the model is doing, and you're just leaning over while bending really from your back. So you're actually deep in your buttocks is where the piriformis is, and you're stretching out that muscle. So once you stretch it out for 10 or 15 seconds, you can do the other side. And you should feel that stretch somewhere deep in your buttocks and in your hip. It's great exercise to help keep your hips mobile. And then there's active hip motion of seated flexion. So while you're seated, you bring one foot up, bring in your, while keeping your back straight, so you're moving through your hip to bring your knee up towards your chest. So once you get up to where you can't, you gently bring it back down, and you repeat this 4 or 5 times. And once again, this wakes up the muscles, stretches out the hip a little bit to bring some blood flow to keep all the cells around that joint healthy. Then you can go to the other leg, of course. And you can do that 3 or 4 times as well. So we're going to move down to the knee, and this is called active knee motion. So it's called terminal knee extension, extension meaning getting it straight. So the goal is to keep your knees fully straight, to allow them to get fully straight. So we're starting halfway up, and then with one leg in front of you, and then we're kind of trying to get those toes to touch the ceiling. So by getting the toes to touch the ceiling, you're really getting that knee as straight as you can, and then you slowly bring it back down. But you only bring it down halfway. So this is a motion that goes from halfway down to all the way up. And once you do that 4 or 5 times, you can go to the other one. So it's halfway down to all the way up. And you can feel your muscles in the front of your thigh starting to work to get your toes towards the ceiling as much as possible. So you're not really moving your hip, you're just moving through your knee. And let's move down to the ankle to finish up here. So there's 2 good motion activities for the ankle. One's called the pumps and one's called circles. So pumps is essentially when you're pumping the brakes of your car. So you can do both at the same time if you want to, or one ankle at a time. So with your ankles and feet in front of you, you just push down like you're stepping on the brakes or pointing your toes like a ballerina. And then you slowly bring them so your toes are being moved up towards your face as far as you can. And then you bring them back down. Once you do this 3 or 4 times, and I'm a huge advocate of going slowly, but also getting as much motion as possible for each. And then the circles is essentially the way we did it for the wrist, where your both ankles at the same time are moving in a clockwise direction 4 or 5 times, and then back the other way 4 or 5 times. Of course, when you're on your own and you can do this for a longer period of time, you can do it 10 or 15 times. And the more you do it, the more kind of a workout you'll get, even in a seated position. So what we've just gone through is prevention, and it's called preventive orthopedics. And that's essentially doing things to prevent the onset of pain or to prevent the onset of a loss of function. So by being proactive about your joints, you will hopefully maintain and preserve healthy joint function, keep you as independent and social as possible, and ultimately improve the quality of your life. These are easy to use, they're effective, meaning they achieve what they're supposed to. And it's a mobile subscription service, which means it's a service that you can purchase online that will therefore bring your exercises and activities right to the palm of your hand through your smartphone or your laptop, desktop, or tablet. And you can even ask your family if they're close with you, or your home health aide if you have one with you, to help you achieve this. So you can use it at the community center, the living facility, the senior center, at home, almost anywhere. And we are advocates of saying as little as 5 or 7 minutes a day, you can positively change your life forever. That means you build a routine of doing some stretching activities such as this. Your pain will diminish. Your ability to stay social and active and independent will happen. Nobody likes pain. We are making the move to better joint health. And healthier joints make happier people. So I appreciate you guys listening, and certainly you can go to the website, which is popdoc.com. So it's a pop-doc.com. If you're on the website, you can browse exercises, you can hit the motion button, and you can hit the preserve bodily health. That's the ones that have preserve are the ones that are perfect for elders, seat-based, safe, effective exercise subscription. Allows you to do things to keep you healthy and happy in the comfort of your own home. Thanks so much for listening, and you can certainly reach out to me.